Well, Merry Christmas, boys. Merry fucking Christmas. Hello, everybody, and welcome to an emergency video. We are here because we have just heard the news about Sam Walsh and his back injury. So I thought, it's important to maybe put something on record, get a bit of a reaction, talk our way through it. Let's be honest, it's happened every year for the last 5 years, just with a different player. And whatever, we'll see what comes of it. Joe, I'll go around. What was your reaction? Where are you at?
I don't know. As someone that's not an expert in high performance, I don't even know what I can say right now. All I know is when it's this consistent over such a long period of time, it's not only frustrating, but it is just blatant. It feels like we're being treated as being dumber than what we are at this point. It's just a joke. Right, it's not about the injury, and I hope Walshy very, very speedy recovery, because obviously he's such an important player. But it's not about the injury. It's not about that part of it at all. It's about dissemination of information not being consistent over not just the last year, but over the last 5 years from this club. It's about the amount of injuries over the past 12 months, let alone the last 3 years or the last 3 months or whatever you want to call it. Like, surely at this point it could be called out. Surely.
Pommy, at what point does it go from unlucky to something's actually wrong with the way in which things are managed?
Round 6, 2022, maybe. I think my biggest concern from this is, I made the tweet earlier today and I took the piss with my father-in-law, but we listened to that Luke Sayers interview and there was a couple of things that he said about transparency. He repeated that 3 times in that interview, and then talked about that they'd reviewed the injuries and they were on top of it. They'd made some changes and they were on top of it. And I made a joke to him saying, wait for 48 hours and we'll see why you said that. The curveball's coming. And my big concern with the injuries isn't so much the toll of them. It's the fact that they always come as a surprise. So if you go back to the syndesmosis injury that Walsh had last year, it was described as a routine knock in a game and there was no lasting damage and it was being managed. So you were expecting him to play the next week. And then all of a sudden, surgery just happened overnight from that report. And again, this has happened again. You have the Sayers interview, but then you also have Ash Hansen himself the week prior saying that he developed back soreness at the end of the season, which we knew ruled him out of 23. He's on a managed program, and part of his management that he won't take part in skills till after Christmas. So it sounded like this was just a normal January comes, he's back in training. So why it looks a lot worse at times is because the club could have easily said 2 weeks ago, at the moment, we're still touching base with the medical team. It may require surgery. We are planning with and without Walsh at this stage. It's the fact that they always seem to sprinkle it that it's okay. And then when it happens, it comes as a shock. And that's my issue at the moment, particularly with my message to Luke Sayers would be the messaging has changed from the club, but the underlying propaganda is still there. Now it's just told to us a bit nicely and someone fronts the media or a podcast, as opposed to before it was just emails. And there is definitely a problem, though. There is definitely, you've got to look at it. Nick Negropontis made a great point today. In December, all the clubs are announcing at Christmas players signing 3 5-year deals. Carlton are announcing that a player's missing round 1. And it seems to happen all the time. And 4 months is a long time. Round 23 was a long time ago. And from a week, from a press release from the club that it's a delayed start to his season to surgery is quite a big jump. So I'm not an expert in back mechanics. I know that's the last thing, though, that they'll ever want. Surgery is the last resort. But 7 days, and you're telling me might return to training in January, now surgery? That's a big jump in 7 days.
Yeah. Paolo, a week ago, this quote came from Patrick Cripps about Sam Walsh. It's been a bit frustrating for him. Those things can linger, but he's hoping to rejoin training in January. He's lucky. He can run a lot better than me, so he doesn't need many weeks to get fit. He'll be fine. Let's go back. Let's actually go back to round 23, and then I'll get you to give your reaction to the situation. So we were told he was touch and go in round 23. I don't know about you guys, but like, I don't hold that against the club because it's a competitive advantage. Any time that Collingwood was spending planning for Sam Walsh was time wasted. He was never playing in round 23. And I think that's well known by all of us now. And anyone that wants to use that against the club, I think is a little misguided. So whatever that happens, I can kind of get that. Afterwards, after the season ends, and we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4 months afterwards, we're now here talking about a surgery, which is they're saying we're going to get another update after a month of the season. That's not the case. That's just not how it's going to be. So how do you feel about the messaging and how the whole situation's played out?
Oh, I think my concern is that how's it taken 4 months to come up with this decision? Like, you've had that long a time period. If you knew there was a niggle there, why didn't they hold him back and say, okay, well, this is probably going to have to be the path that you might have to miss round 1. So maybe let's just get on top of it now, so it's not a problem, and it hopefully won't affect a large portion of season 2023 for you. But for me, it feels like it's a whole. They're trying to buttress you and trying to buffet you into what's coming, which I don't like. It's not like it's done on. It is done on their own volition, but it's also done to a point where it's like, okay, well, we know bad news is coming, so we've got to stagger it all. We've got to say, okay, well, this has to come out at this time because this is coming, and this has to come out at this time because this is coming. And do they sit down and scheme things like that out? Probably. I think they probably do. But yeah, I mean, it's I think the frustrating thing for all of us is that it's just same thing every year. It's literally the same thing every year for the last 6 to 7 to 8 years. It's build your hopes up before Christmas. Christmas comes, injury news hits, injuries are cooked. We find out about someone who was injured that we had no idea about. Season starts, and then it's the same merry-go-round over and over again. So, yeah, I think the burning thing for us is, and the thing that stings for us is that it's almost like a precursor to something we've seen already, which doesn't end well at the end of the season. It's the start of something that we're all like, oh, we hope this year's going to change. We hope we're going to get luck with injuries. We hope that things are going to change on the field, and then that luck doesn't go our way. So I think that's why a lot of people are hurting too.
Joe, you made a good point earlier around, I mean, first and foremost, obviously sending Walshy well wishes, and, he's the main priority here and getting him right. And he's going to be spending Christmas Day, just after back surgery. So like, there's a human element to this. And I'm just thinking it's gone 2017. It's been Doherty, 2018, Charlie Curnow, 1920. I think last year was Walsh, the syndesmosis, right? Christmas-ish time. Walsh.
Throw in Marchbank.
I'm actually, maybe it's just because it's the holiday break and like I'm feeling chill, but like I'm not panicking from the sense of, we can't cover him and he's too important. Like, yes, he's important. He's one of our best 2 to 3 players. And he's a midfielder as well. And there's a few others that now have an opportunity to get more playing time and all of that. How do you think this impacts us as a whole on the field, off the field?
I think through 2020, we saw that we can cover for this sort of thing, right? So I'm not actually concerned with covering for Walsh. I think the system stands up. We've seen that the system stands up regardless of who comes in. The concern is just around, like, we haven't even hit 2023 yet, and we're already looking at this. Like, there's no excuse this year. I don't care. We can't use injuries as an excuse 2 years straight. You just can't do that. Like, this is all or nothing at this point. And if you can't get it under control before the season starts for another year, Like, forget about getting ahead of ourselves now, because this is the most foreshadowing of a season that I've ever seen. Like, we were given so much hope around, it's going to be different next year. We're going to get the injuries under control. All of these things are going to go our way that didn't go our way in 2022. Obviously not. Like, we haven't even hit 2023 yet, and we're still dealing with the same shit. So for me now, on field, sure, we'll probably, if the injuries like this continue to occur, we know what we're capable of, and it's 9th or 10th, and it's 12 wins, and it's not enough, because unfortunately, anyone that makes a run to a final series and anyone that makes a run through a final series across the history of the game, I can't think of maybe more than 1 or 2 sides that have done it without a relatively healthy playing list. And right now, Sam Walsh, you can say he's going to miss the first round. Get it through your head. He's not playing until halfway through the season, is how I'm looking at it. We're going to miss him for half a year. So already he's missed a full preseason. He comes in halfway through the season. How many other players are going to be facing the same thing, where they're going to have to do mini preseasons, as we've been told for 6 years, whether it be a McGovern or a Jack Martin, now Walsh, throughout the season to hit their straps in the back half of the year, hopefully for us, to make a good run at finals. It's the same narrative. It's the same story. So I'm now bracing myself for, all right, this is injury number 1. When does it get to 17 again? Which is what we saw this year. 17 at one point, I believe the number was. 17 on an injury list. That is a joke. There's no excuse for this at this point. You have to get this under wraps if you're going to take yourself seriously as a football club throughout the season. So on field, right now, it's 12 wins again, because if we're going to be dealing with this, we know what the ceiling is. Off field, more and more noise throughout the year. And at what point does that damn wall break for the high performance department, which is really, for me, the only department left from that review when you think about it. So,
Pommy, go.
Yeah.
No, go for it.
No, I was going to say you touched on something interesting there, because, like Sayers mentioned in the podcast on summer sessions around, something that a lot of supporters and people don't realize is like the little 1%ers that go on. Like, we obviously look at the results and determine our judgment on how things are going in all facets. He mentioned about the little things that are being put in place behind the scenes that don't get spoken about. And fair enough. We don't really know day to day the little things that are being put in place. And yes, we're not professionals. We're not knowledgeable in strength and conditioning and high performance and the like. But after 5 years or 4 years, 5 years now, how long has Russell been with us and his program been with us? After however long it's been, is it not enough time now to say something's not working? It can't, is it really just that unlucky, Pommy? Like, are we just that unlucky that, surely there has to be some level of, we didn't do this right, or we need to be better doing this. What my fear is that we're going to get to round 1 and they're going to say, we're introducing him into skills and we're going to, manage his loads and we're going to see how he responds. And then we're going to get to round 4 and then we're going to be like, oh, well, we're going to reassess him at the bye. So we're going to reassess him at the bye. The bye's going to come. He hasn't quite reacted to his load the way we hoped for. We're going to hope that he's going to feature at the end part of the season. Like, how would you like the messaging to come from here on?
Just tell the truth. I think you've got to tell the truth. I think the big thing for me with this club is, like I said, with the Luke Sayers interview, Sam Walsh's Cinder Moses interview, it's always downplayed. Now, I don't buy into the rubbish I see on social media of, oh, you can't reveal to your opposition what's going on. Scott Pendlebury, round 23, will be well aware Sam Walsh isn't opposite him. Do you know what I mean? It's like, he's not an idiot. Do you know what I mean? That's not going to be a surprise. So what are you hiding is my question. And I think the big thing is, when you talk about Russell, some questions have to be asked, because Carlton have been in the top 5 for the most injuries to their best 25 for the last 3 years. So players that have missed, and that is, in my opinion, to touch on what Joe said, he's quite right. Top teams genuinely have continuity. And at the moment, poor Voss never has his best 22 available. This year, McGovern missed 14 games, Williams 13, Pitternet 12, Jack Martin 9, George Hewitt 7, Kennedy 5, Owies 5, Wheater in 4. They're best 22 players, and you can't sustain that. Like the McGovern and Williams, if it's 2, yes, you can. But when you're talking that's what, over 10 games, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 of your best 22 not available for over half of the season. You go back to the year prior, you've got Zach Williams again, 8 games missed. Tom de Koning and Pitternet, 9 games apiece. Zach Fisher, 12. These start to add up because it's continuity. And what we're seeing from the best teams is the forward line plays a large proportion of games together. You're talking 18 plus. The back line plays 18 plus games together, particularly when you look at Carlton's structure in the backline transition. They need to play together. And when Carlton starts shifting it around, different styles, change the ball movement, change patterns, it's hard. And the problem is with Carlton, without looking too into it, is like Joe said, to finish 9th is pretty impressive, considering that Voss pretty much had to make force changes every week. It's pretty impressive in that avenue, but it's not sustainable. And you've got to now look at the messaging from the club. And this is where the fans come into it. You've got to start hanging them with the rope they made. In the off-season, Austin, Cook, Voss all used the durability word. Durability was the key moving forward for this football club. They addressed that injuries had cost them. And let's be honest, I don't think there's anyone in the world who's a fan of football says that Carlton wouldn't have been a lock for the 8 if half of them players were available for all 22 rounds. So you've got to ask yourself this. The club have said durability is an issue. Straight away, you've got probably the most durable player. He's now out for, let's be honest, back problems are finicky. If you think round 2, that's melt behaviour. Let's say the buyer's best case scenario. That's a big problem for Carlton because now you're relying on Doc rotating in the midfield. Doc hasn't played a full season since last year. So suddenly you're hiring his risk of re-aggravating an ACL. Someone's got to come in. Zach Williams, never been fit. Now he's got to play 12 games. When was the last time Zach Williams played 12 games in a row? Dow, is he good enough? Can he play 12 games in a row? Suddenly, Carlton have got a huge issue in December where all the other teams who are going to try and get in that 8 are re-signing players for 5 years. That's what their focus is. Sustainability. Carlton are still at that first hurdle, and that is the problem. What Carlton need to do here really is be upfront, and that's my issue. Hansen had the opportunity. We know he's injured. He's at the medical thing. Stem the fears and say there could be a chance of a surgery. But this is my problem with the club. 7 days ago, Ash Hansen made that statement. You're telling me in 7 days, it went from May return to training, Cripper's saying, we expect him to see him January the 1st, to back surgery in 7 days. You know what I mean? Come on. It rained last night. I didn't come down in it.
I was having a mighty great time yesterday. Had a great evening. Woke up 9 a.m. walking down Chapel Street with a coffee in hand. Full of life, full of beans. Literally, as I looked at my phone, I get the notification. Like, I guess I don't know if I'm just calm because I trust somebody else to step up. I don't know if it's because I'm just used to it because it's happened literally 5 preseasons in a row.
Yeah.
I don't want to like there's no point in yelling and screaming and getting crazy about it. But also, like, for fuck's sake, it's time to get serious on all fronts, on-field performance, off-field performance. Paulo, I just feel like I'm being spoken to like I'm a fucking idiot, if I'm being honest. I feel like I'm being communicated to like I'm a moron and that I can't handle reality of news.
You ever think that's what they might think? You ever think that's what they might think? That things aren't always a coincidence. Yeah, it's that, and let's not forget too. Let's not forget about that. There are 3 other guys that are Pitternet. What the hell's going on with him? they're saying, oh, round 1 also might be. But if he's had PCL surgery, is a 3-month thing, right? So August, September, October, November, December, that's 5 months, right? What they also failed to say was that his other knee was hurt as well. So no one knew about that. You only saw strapping on his knee. So he hurt his other knee as well. He's had PCL surgery. I don't know. Has he had a setback? Because it doesn't seem. I've never heard of a PCL 8 to 12 months. Like that's unless it's completely serious. But he isn't in full training, so I don't know what the hell's going on there. What about David Cunningham at the end of last season? Or wait, did he just disappear? No update on him. They just kept saying, "Oh yeah, he's back into full skills, or he's back into full training, or whatever it was." And the other one that we keep hearing about, there's 2 others that haven't been mentioned. Matthew Cottrell, who was apparently in a moon boot.
He was. I saw it.
About him. So we've heard nothing about him. So Matthew Cottrell's in a moon boot. We don't know what's going on there. What about Adam Cherry in the rehab group? Why is he in the rehab group? Why is he in the rehab group? Haven't heard anything. Nothing. Well, they just going to spring that one on us as well. Oh, Adam Cherry's just had hamstring surgery at the end of January, so he's going to miss the first month of the year. I can't wait for this one, and you can probably pencil this one in. Matthew Cottrell syndesmosis in 2 weeks. Matthew Cottrell syndesmosis in 2 weeks. I can just see it. Mate. It's like clockwork.
It's fascinating. It really is. It's fascinating, and I don't know. At some point,
I want to know how Walsh got to a point where he had a bulging disc and he's had to have a microdiscectomy or whatever it is. That's what I want to know. How's it got to that point?
That's a good point. My thought on that first, and this may be unfair, but I remember Russell did the Ball Magnets interview, and he opened up about his philosophy on stress and how his philosophy was that stress is not necessary. It's looked at as a bad thing, but the body ultimately needs stress in order for it to grow, which as a someone that's not in the field, I just take his word for what it is because he knows what he's talking about. But I mean, there's a lot of stress related injuries at this club. Go back to 2020, Zach Fisher with the ankle, Cunningham, just on Cunningham. He's on it. Yeah,
I could name so many. Matt Kennedy with a Liz Frank. Is that's potentially a stress-related injury in the foot, is it not, as well? Tom DeConnick in his back at the start of 2020 or 2019, whenever it was.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many. You could rattle off so many stress-related injuries. So many, just off the top of your head.
That would be my question to Russell when he says that he thinks stress is good. I would say, look at the ladder, bro.
I just checked too because I wanted to make sure I got the facts right. It wasn't 17. We had 14 on the injury list at one point, and that is fact.
I almost want, you know what I would love? I would love just a 20-minute, maybe a little lecture series hosted by Russell, educating us on stress and things, because there's obviously a lot of information I feel like I'm missing, but is there really so much information that we're missing? Is it really that difficult to comprehend? I mean, however Walsh developed this back issue, we don't know. Should we know? Maybe, probably.
Who knows? It's probably not one thing. It's probably a build-up of moments as well, and then it goes. So bulging disc it's something that you definitely can play through. It's just more about pain management. But to get to a point where it needs surgery, like Jesus, I think, and so the issue is as well, like if we look at our injuries through 2022 and from before as well, it's not so much the initial injury that is cause for concern. I mean, it is, but the bigger cause for concern is injury, recovery period, rehab, re-injury. That's the huge thing. That's the big worry, and that's where I think the SNC department and the club, they haven't put their hand up publicly, but I think that's where they realise they've completely stuffed up, because that's not luck. That's getting numbers right. That's understanding the bodies right. That's understanding how each individual works, and the people who are getting injured have been there for years. So you look at McGovern last season, hamstring, rehab, hamstring. Chera's the same as well. I think from what we're hearing is that he's part of the rehab group because of a hamstring niggle. I don't know. That's unconfirmed, and I don't want to spread that around. But if he's part of the rehab group, what's going on there? Cunningham is the same as well. Williams the same as well with his calf. Niggle came back, blew it out. Same thing again. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but yeah, there has to be some onus taken because you can't, as I said, that's the issue. It's injury, recovery, rehab, injury again. So, and the probability of you doing the same thing again is actually the initial injury. So if you've had a hamstring strain, you doing it again is likely to happen because you've already had the hamstring strain, if that makes sense. So how they manage that, I don't know.
I think the big issue though is not just the recovery. I think when you look at like Cripps, look at Cripps' injury a couple of years ago that required surgery, and David Teague did when he was fired, his agent said that there was a point in the season that really Cripps shouldn't have played, but Cripps is that type of player that puts his hand up, and because Carlton were desperate and were decimated by injuries, he played, which then ultimately made the injury worse, which required surgery. You would probably you don't have to have a degree in medical science to think at some point in the season, Walsh probably needed a week off, right? So the bulging disc probably needed the week off, pain management, maybe just to release that pressure. He had to keep playing there because Hewitt went down. Hewitt, another player traditionally, Sydney know he's got a long-standing back injury, rotated and rested, played every game until he got injured. So you can see where it happens with Carlton quite clearly. Marchbank, the first game Marchbank came back, you could tell he wasn't quite ready for it. And probably in a logical world, he played VFL, right? But he had to play senior footy because Carlton were at the stage of putting a tweet out and saying anyone 6'4"? Do you know what I mean? And that's the problem. So you see that is where you've got to look at Russell then and say, surely at some point Russell has got to put his foot down and say, Walsh can't play this week. Voss. Walsh can't. Dow has to play. And Voss might say, well, he's not good enough. And he's going to say, well, you tell you what, in 6 months' time, you're going to regret not playing Dow for 5 games in a row because Walsh isn't going to be ready till the bye. And that is where you need that communication. And that is what I fear is happening at the club. Because if you look, a lot of these injuries are recycled injuries. Injuries, like you say, where as soon as they're ready, there is no VFL football. It's straight into the furnace. And then you look at other clubs. Dan Hanbury played, 6 VFL games before he was ready? On, off, he kept getting injured in VFL, but they fed him through the VFL system. If that was Carlton, Dan Hanbury would have played, probably blown an ACL, probably would have retired. But other clubs are feeding them in. But because of Carlton's injuries, like Joe's saying, 14 on an injury list. Do you know what I mean? And Eagles got COVID top-ups. Carlton needed COVID top-ups. Do you know what I mean? Like at that stage of the season. So this is where we've got to start asking the questions. It's all right, Sayers coming out, being the nice guy, but my red flags are going up in this preseason because I haven't heard from Luke Sayers for 6 to 8 months. I'd totally forgotten he was the president, after 8-2, if I'm totally honest. He was everywhere at 8-2, though. Do you know what I mean? I used to open a bag of Frosties for the kids in the morning, and Luke Sayers would pop out and go 80k members, Pom, right? And he disappeared. He comes back, injuries happen again. These are my questions with the club. It's okay saying, our media team's the best in the world. Look at our witty little tweets. I'm here for your besties. Love heart emoji. But be a proper football club. We're a sports club. If Arsenal can confess and say XYZ is out for 2 weeks, why the hell do we have to treat me like I'm 7 years old and I'm scared Santa's not real? Be serious with us because this is obviously a problem because it's 2020. Injuries. 2021, injuries. Top 5 for 3 years. No other club has featured in that top 5 injury list for 3 years in a row. And I don't believe in luck. Luck's what losers talk about because they weren't good enough. This is continual. So my 3 questions here for the club that they need to answer is, are we clinging on to injury-ridden players just for the sake of it? 2, are we honest? Is the physio department, is the medical department know what it's on about? And 3, why can't we communicate this? Because I'm telling you now, we wouldn't have this emergency pod if Ash Hansen had grown a pair and said, you know what, we're debating surgery. He may not be here, right, January. No one would have been worried. But it's the fact, him, and then Cripper 2 days later, oh yeah, Walsh, he'll be there. He can run. He's fit as a fiddle. Can't wait to see the little guy, January. Boom, surgery. And that is it. And that happens every freaking injury. Joe, you'll remember it. The Syndermosis injury, routine knock. He's fine. Kennedy, 2019, routine knock. He'll be fine. The guy nearly died. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. This is, honestly, Carlton's injury is like when 50 Cent talks about being shot 7 times in the chest. And you know it was a water gun, right? But he's milking it. Right? This is what happens. And it's annoying me because we're in December. We should be having dinner with our families and enjoying ourselves. But it is always the same bollocks. It's Disney press releases with M. Night Shyamalan reality.
It's people forget, right? Like, we're paying members of this football club. Like, we pay to be a member of this football club. If you pay for a membership of any business or any association, you're paying for certain privileges. And one of those privileges in this case is not to be treated like a dickhead and not to be treated like you've got no idea what's going on. What we give our money, we give our time, we give our effort, every one of us, not talking about the 4 of us, I'm talking about the whole Carlton, 88,000 members last year paid to be part of this football club. What we're asking, we're not saying, where's your magic wand? We want no injuries. It's not about that. It's not about that. Hard-earned money is there for you to be transparent with us. Be transparent. Tell us in round 23, it's real bad after the game, right? I kind of understand the whole, let's withhold as much information when it's a game like that. Maybe it'll throw the opposition. Whether that was going to be the be-all, end-all, I don't think so. But I understand the thinking. But after the game, it's bad. He could miss the start of next season. We're not sure. Not, oh, he'll be right for preseason training day 1. Oh, he's going to be okay by Christmas. Oh, he's going to be running by January. Oh, back surgery. Like, come on, man.
Well, that's the really crazy part, because Sam Walsh, up until this very moment in time, is a durable player. And the way I'm seeing it, maybe I'm being a bit pessimistic in this view, but for the rest of his career, he's no longer a durable player because he's going to have to manage this, because this is a serious issue. Now,
didn't miss a game for the first, what was it, 50-odd games, 60-odd games? Not an issue, not one issue, not a niggle, not an ankle roll, nothing. And then all of a sudden, in the last 12 months, the injuries have compounded in different areas. Like, come on, man. Like, you take your car to a mechanic, yeah? You take your car to a mechanic to get fixed. If that mechanic fucks up multiple times, you shouldn't be taking that car back to that mechanic. That's how I look at this. And if you are, you got to look at your decision-making and who you're trusting in for your car and to fix your car. No one is taking a car back to a mechanic 12 times, 14 times. It's 1 or 2 times and then see you later. We're moving on. So if anyone after this podcast, anyone that's listening, any of us 4 thinks, oh, this is the end of it, like, you need to switch your mindset, because this is just the start of what I think we're going to see over the next 3 months heading into the season. Unfortunately.
I'd love your guys' opinions on this, but does anyone else think as well, and this might just be me coming from a round ball mentality where players are owned by the club and there is a real onus on actually being good at the sport you play before you're good at anything else like social media or anything, like the sport and results are number 1, is Walsh is a huge commodity to make the finals. I think we'd all agree on that. Like, you'd feel a lot safer winning a flag with Walsh fit than without Walsh. If this injury occurred round 23, just prior to that, we're now in December. you're telling me, I appreciate Walsh might not want the surgery. Historically, look at Tiger Woods, look at anyone who's had any back surgery. 9 times out of 10, they're not the same, or they're managing it for the rest of their lives and having to monitor it. So he probably doesn't want it. Surely someone's forced this decision, though, at a high level, because he's $1 million footballer and he's prime for your list. So surely you're not dilly-dallying and going, oh, you know what, maybe we'll knock it out to Christmas. You know, maybe Santa Claus will bring him a new back. Surely you're putting the onus on him in October, November, going, look, this ain't getting right. Let's just knock the surgery out now, because then the chances are you are ready round 1, round 2 with a bit of a delayed preseason. Now where it is now, when you look at the time frame, and a conservative time frame is 3 months. That's a conservative one looking at historically, minimum 3 months, right? Do you know what I mean? Return to training, that's what, round 4, round 5? Surely someone's thought about this other than us 4 melts here. Isn't that a concern to anyone else that it has taken so long? Like December the 23rd. Yeah. Bizarre.
Paolo.
Well, I was saying to Tez before the show, if this is the NBA and you've got a player that goes down with an injury, within a week, you'll know whether or not that player is shut down for the season.
Yeah.
That's high performance. That's elite sport.
I think the concern here is that what was the so say they took the conservative approach compared to the surgery. What I want to know is what was the net cost of them saying, okay, well, if we hold off long enough, it might actually right itself. But if he actually has surgery in September to try to right it, was it going to be a big of an issue, if that makes sense? And that's where I'm sort of confused. Is like, okay, well, if you had surgery in September and they said, okay, let's try and completely right this, let's get this completely out of the way, what were the risks so big in the fact that they didn't want him to go down that path, that they had that 4-month time frame? Like, it seems, I don't know, it seems like they've got this one, that they've got the timelines completely wrong in this. I think they've completely botched this one.
Yeah. No, mate, spot on.
That's how it seems to me.
I agree. I mean, my best guess, because all I can give is a guess. I think any of us can give is a guess at this point. My best educated guess, based on the information available to me, is that they did not diagnose it as serious as what it is today in December. Yeah. They obviously thought that with some sort of rehabilitation program between August and December, that he'd be okay. I want to know, in that 4 months from round 23 until today, how many setbacks did he have?
Yeah.
What was the timeline of each different milestone that he needed to tick off in order to progress? Look, there's I just find it really staggering to believe that he was going okay until today.
What about the fact that we only knew it was a bulging disc up until today?
Correct.
So they've kept that under wraps for what? So what are we? August, September, October, November. So for 5 months, it's been kept under wraps. All we've been told is back soreness, and we all knew it was a bulging disc, right? Everyone probably knew it was. You know, if you're that tightly knit in the circles, the rumor going around was that it's a bulging disc. But for it to not actually be confirmed by the club 5 months into it is like that. That's really disappointing, I think. And the fact that they just kept saying it's back soreness, mate. I've got back soreness. You have back soreness. Tommy has back soreness, mate. Everyone has back soreness every now and again. It's from a gym, or whether it's from maybe lifting something, whatever. Then you get over it. You know, it's muscles. And but for this back soreness to last 5 months, like, come on.
Some people will say it's not our right to know all these details, this and that. Some people will say, you know, what does it matter? Like, why do we need to know? Like I said, you pay your membership.
Stakeholders.
Don't ask for money to invest in this club and become, like you said, Tez, a stakeholder or a member of this club if you're not going to share the information that we are entitled to by paying for that.
Well, they're the one telling us. The club is the one. The club is the one telling us that they're going to do that.
You know, that's the frustration. And this is the thing. Like, this is the other thing. Others are like, oh, you know, but we stopped the leaks. there were too many leaks out of the club. I couldn't care. I want to know this information. I'm paying to know this information. Like, there's so many layers to this where it is just mind-blowing that we've sat here for so long and just copped it.
Guess what? If you get on top of these things early and you actually tell people, guess how many leaks you have?
Exactly right. Zero.
For
boys.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, for me, the concern is like just little things like you guys are saying, like the fact that Luke Sayers does a podcast and says, "Oh, we've done an internal review of the medical department." So I have to tune into a podcast and listen to an hour of waffle to find that out. You don't think that requires maybe an email? Because this has been in the media since the bye when Carlton were 8-2 and everyone was talking, is this going to curtail them? Look at the injuries, they're mounting up. And then all them Herald Sun did a huge article on Russell. Was that a mistake? Is he to blame? They're the kind of things that you email. You don't do a podcast with your mates and go, it's all right, guys, we're on top of it. You wait and check Twitter in 48 hours. You communicate with your members and say, look, we appreciate these are the mistakes. This has probably cost us finals. This is what we're doing. This is the outcome. It always seems to be we have to get on a podcast and get on the front foot. And I am now at the stage as a fan that I'm back to the old days when we had Lagudishen. You know how much I hated that guy, where everything the club says, I am trying to translate if, why have you told me that? What's happening tomorrow? What am I seeing on Twitter? Where before, this time last year, I was like, oh, great, we've reviewed the department. Woohoo! Now I'm thinking, what have you actually hiding from me?
Well, gents, Merry Christmas.
Great
to be here. Thanks
Happy
for tuning
New Year.
in. Thanks for being here. Those of you watching at home, share your thoughts below. How are you feeling? I mean, obviously, there's that initial frustration and the emotion, and then we're going to learn to get over it like we always do. Unfortunately, it just feels like a perpetual cycle of the same rubbish, which is not ideal, particularly when you think about the change that really was made 12 months ago and seemingly, back on track. So hopefully this is not a sign of things to come, but all four of us here know and have lived through really something similar. And I just hope that this isn't the start of what I fear it might be.
Talk back on the radio is going to be interesting tonight, mate.
Yeah.
It's a good topic.
I look forward to it. I want to wish you guys Merry Christmas.
Yes,
those
you
of you
too.
watching at home, Happy Holidays. And hopefully we don't see you when the next bout, because of a next bout of bad news. But enjoy your break, guys. Love you all. Go Blues.
Peru.
Go Blues. Merry Christmas.